It drifts above Earth like a silver whisper. The Tiangong space station, China's living laboratory orbiting 250 miles above our planet. From the ground, it looks serene, almost peaceful, a moving point of light cutting through the darkness. But inside its pressurized walls, experiments are unfolding that could alter the very foundation of how we understand life, matter, and even consciousness in space. When the latest crew docked in August 2025, they carried not just supplies, but questions. Can life evolve in microgravity? Can quantum particles behave coherently without Earth's interference? And can human biology adapt to decades of existence beyond our home planet? These aren't just studies. They are rehearsals for humanity's next era, one in which orbit becomes our laboratory and the cosmos, our new frontier. What's happening inside Tiangong isn't ordinary research. In one module, Chinese scientists are manipulating Bose-Einstein condensates, matter cooled to a fraction of a degree above absolute zero, to observe how quantum coherence behaves without gravity's pull. In another, biologists are watching how human stem cells divide and differentiate in space, searching for clues to longevity, cancer, and regeneration. Every experiment is a mirror, showing us not only what we can become, but what we still don't understand about ourselves. And yet, behind this calm routine of scientific exploration lies something quietly unsettling. Data that doesn't fit the models, patterns that shouldn't exist. Something unexpected is happening inside Tiangong. The first sign came from the Cold Atom Laboratory module, where temperatures hover near absolute zero, an environment designed to let atoms behave like waves, merging into one quantum state. In early September 2025, researchers noticed a sudden phase shift in the condensate cloud. It wasn't caused by equipment failure or electromagnetic interference. Every instrument checked out. Yet the atoms began to align themselves in a way never before recorded, forming a rotating filament, a kind of self-organized vortex that defied both gravitational and thermal expectations. On Earth, turbulence or vibration can easily distort such experiments. But aboard Tiangong, in the near-perfect stillness of microgravity, this symmetry breaking should have been impossible. The crew repeated the experiment dozens of times. The same anomaly reappeared. At first, the team thought it might be the result of minute magnetic fluctuations caused by the station's attitude control thrusters. But the rotation persisted even when the entire module was in passive drift mode. It seemed as though the quantum field itself, the invisible ocean that underlies all physical reality, was responding to the absence of gravity in a new way. Elsewhere on the station, biologists began noticing something equally strange in their stem cell experiments. Colonies of cells were growing faster, but not randomly. Under the microscope, their structure appeared to self-organize into filaments resembling early embryonic tissue. What should have been chaotic division was instead orderly, patterned, as if microgravity was unlocking a latent genetic code normally suppressed by Earth's pull. As word of these results spread through internal channels, the Chinese Academy of Sciences sent encrypted updates to research centers in Beijing and Shanghai, while Tiangong's international collaboration network, though still limited, began to take interest. NASA and ESA scientists quietly requested telemetry data, suspecting a calibration issue. But the data was pristine. No interference, no radiation spikes, no contamination. For years, physicists have theorized that removing gravity from quantum and biological systems could reveal hidden symmetries of nature. What Tiangong was seeing now might be the first tangible proof that the laws governing matter and life are not constants but conditional behaviors dependent on environment and energy state. Yet, beneath the thrill of discovery came unease. Some crew members began to report sensory distortions, brief flashes of light even with their eyes closed, subtle shifts in perception, as though the station itself was humming at a frequency just beyond hearing. What if these were not malfunctions of the body, but side effects of something else awakening in microgravity? By mid-September 2025, Tiangong's logbooks had become an archive of the unexplainable. The quantum vortex inside the Bose-Einstein chamber kept re-emerging at random intervals, even when the experiment was idle. The onboard cameras recorded faint glows around the containment unit, luminescent fringes, like an aurora caught in a glass sphere. Ground engineers suggested residual static discharge, but the luminosity synchronized with the same frequency observed in the biological module, 8.3 Hz. Two different experiments, quantum and organic, were now pulsing together. Commander Xu Yilin, a veteran taikonaut and physicist, decided to isolate every system. Power lines were rerouted, modules sealed, wireless transmissions suspended for 6 hours, yet the oscillation continued, as if the effect were internal to the structure of space itself. When she sent the data downlink to the Shanghai Mission Control Center, a single phrase appeared in the report summary: coherence coupling. That term hadn't been used since early quantum field trials on Earth, experiments that tried and failed to merge biological and quantum coherence into one measurable phenomenon. Down on Earth, researchers compared Tiangong's readings with magnetospheric data. To their astonishment, at the exact moments of coherence peaks, Earth's ionosphere registered microfluctuations in resonance, small, harmless, but synchronous. The station wasn't just observing, it seemed to be interacting. Inside the life science module, the stem cell cultures had by then developed membranes thicker than predicted, with a peculiar iridescence under polarized light. The cell's mitochondria emitted faint biophotons, light particles produced by living organisms, but their emission rate doubled compared to ground controls. In microgravity, light and life were starting to speak a new language together. The atmosphere aboard the station grew tense. Every crew member knew this was historic, yet unsettling. They felt like pioneers standing at the edge of a new physics, unable to tell if they were witnessing creation or distortion. Shu recorded a private message, her voice calm but weighted. "We came to study life in space, but maybe space itself is studying us." From orbit, Tiangong continued its silent path, completing one revolution every 92 minutes. Each pass over the night side of Earth, the auroral fields below shimmered faintly stronger, as though responding to a pulse from above. The scientists on the ground began to realize, if this coherence truly existed, it could mean that quantum fields, biological systems, and planetary magnetism were entangled in ways we never imagined. But how deep did this connection go? And could humanity control it before it controlled us? The next breakthrough didn't come from a physicist or biologist, but from an engineer. Li Wen, Tiangong's systems specialist, noticed subtle fluctuations in the station's power grid occurring precisely during coherence peaks. The readings showed minute but consistent changes in voltage, as if the entire electrical framework of Tiangong was resonating with the experiments themselves. It wasn't dangerous, but it was unmistakable. The station was acting like an antenna. Li proposed something radical: to deliberately test whether the phenomenon could be influenced. With permission from ground control, the crew adjusted the timing of the condensate's magnetic traps, shifting their modulation frequencies by fractional cycles. The biological samples were simultaneously exposed to different radiation shielding patterns to monitor cellular reactions. The results stunned everyone. The moment the modulation frequency reached a specific threshold, 8.3 Hz, the same that had appeared in all prior data, the cell division rate surged again, and the quantum vortex stabilized into a perfect geometric ring. The phenomenon was reproducible. They had, without meaning to, created a controllable resonance between quantum matter, living tissue, and the station's electromagnetic field. On Earth, the data ignited quiet discussions in Beijing's National Space Science Center. Some called it the Tiangong resonance. Others avoided naming it altogether, wary of political and philosophical implications. If space itself could amplify coherence, then microgravity wasn't just a neutral environment. It was an active participant in shaping reality. At the same time, the crew began to feel physical effects they couldn't explain. Heart rates stabilized unusually, blood oxygenation improved. Even sleep cycles became longer and more regular. It was as though their bodies were unconsciously aligning with the same frequency permeating their experiments. For Shu, it felt like standing at the threshold of something profound, a doorway where physics and biology overlapped. Late one night, she floated to the observation window, watching the Earth pass silently beneath her. The auroras were brighter than usual, glowing with delicate crimson bands that rippled all the way to mid-latitudes. She whispered into the recorder, "We might be seeing the first trace of coherence between a living system and the planet itself. If that's true, we're not separate from this resonance. We're part of it." But as the signal continued to strengthen, another reading began to emerge, faint rhythmic distortions in the magnetometer data. Something else was responding out there, beyond Tiangong's orbit. At first, the magnetometer distortion seemed like random noise, brief tremors in the background of space, but pattern analysis told another story. The pulses followed a repeating rhythm, spaced at exact orbital intervals. They didn't align with solar activity, nor with known satellite interference. The source appeared to drift just ahead of Tiangong, as though the station was chasing a shadow through orbit. Mission Control urged caution. Every variable was checked: the solar panels, the power converters, even crew biometric sensors. Nothing explained the signal. Then, during one of the resonance experiments, when the condensate chamber was active and the stem cells were dividing at peak rate, the magnetometer reading spiked. The rhythm synchronized perfectly with the 8.3 Hz coherence frequency. Whatever this pulse was, it was reacting to Tiangong itself. Li Wen theorized that the anomaly might be a standing electromagnetic wave trapped between Earth's ionosphere and the station's orbit, amplified by the resonance experiments. Essentially, Tiangong could have become a node, a temporary mirror for a frequency that already existed in nature but had never been strong enough to detect. If that was true, they were interacting not with an external signal, but with the planet's own electromagnetic heartbeat. When Xu relayed the findings to Beijing, the response was brief and cryptic. Continue observations, maintain frequency integrity. No one wanted to say it outright, but the implications were extraordinary. If Tiangong had indeed coupled with Earth's Schumann resonance, the natural electromagnetic frequency of the planet, then the coherence effect wasn't limited to space. It extended into the biosphere itself. Inside the station, the biological cultures continued to evolve. Some cells showed unexpected resistance to radiation, their DNA strands tightening into previously unseen configurations. The scientists were cautious to avoid the word mutation, yet the data spoke for itself. These weren't ordinary adaptations. They were directional, precise, as though the cells were responding intelligently to the frequency field. Xu began keeping a private journal, noting how her dreams had changed. They were vivid now, filled with sound, deep, resonant tones echoing like ocean waves. The same tone she had heard faintly through the structure of Tiangong. She started to wonder if the line between physical resonance and perception was fading. Could consciousness itself be sensitive to this hidden frequency, a bridge between quantum matter and thought? As the days passed, one question grew impossible to ignore. If the resonance could reach Earth, what would happen if it strengthened further? By late October 2025, Tiangong was gliding toward its final orbit before the next crew rotation. The resonance experiments had entered their quiet phase, yet the background pulses never faded. Each time the station crossed over the South Atlantic anomaly, instruments flickered for a fraction of a second, as if brushing against an invisible curtain. Onboard logs filled with minor irregularities, sensor drift, subtle magnetic deviations, and occasional flickers of static in the communication feed. To an outside observer, these were routine anomalies, but Xu and her team knew better. The frequency was intensifying. Their quantum condensate now stabilized instantly, even without magnetic confinement. The self-organizing vortex, once an unpredictable feature, had become a constant. It rotated in perfect symmetry, generating measurable electromagnetic fields of its own. In essence, Tiangong was hosting a field that sustained itself. On Earth, scientists began running parallel tests using ground-based resonators to see if they could replicate the coherence pattern. None succeeded. Whatever was happening aboard Tiangong seemed uniquely dependent on the microgravity environment, or on the station itself. Speculation grew that Tiangong's structural materials, particularly its superconductive alloy joints, might be amplifying the resonance naturally. The entire vessel had become a unified instrument, part machine, part participant. Crew health continued to surprise medical teams. Muscle atrophy rates dropped, calcium loss slowed, and even minor wounds healed rapidly. The changes were subtle but undeniable. Xu compared crew data against decades of spaceflight records. Never before had astronauts' biological markers improved in microgravity. It was as though the resonance wasn't merely influencing their experiments, it was nurturing them. Still, the psychological effects deepened. Some crew members reported moments of temporal stretching, a sensation that time itself was fluctuating. Others described a faint harmonic hum echoing through the hull, audible only during silence. Tiangong had become eerily alive, breathing in synchronization with its orbit. Beijing's response grew terse. All public transmissions were filtered, live video feeds delayed. Within private communication channels, Xu's team received a new directive: prepare to end the experiments permanently and initiate magnetic purging. The reason wasn't given, but everyone understood. Something about the resonance frightened those on the ground. As the team prepared for the shutdown sequence, the station's magnetometers surged beyond their limit. For the first time, The coherence frequency fractured into two separate tones, an interference pattern that seemed almost deliberate. And in that silence between the tones, Tiangong's lights flickered. When the lights stabilized, the crew realized something had changed. Every display on the main console showed a slight time discrepancy, not minutes, but milliseconds out of sync with Earth's atomic clock. Tiangong's internal systems were perfectly coordinated, yet their reference to ground time had slipped. In orbital mechanics, even a millisecond deviation can mean everything. But this shift didn't behave like a delay. It was as if the entire station had entered a subtly different temporal frame. Shu ordered a full system diagnostic. No hardware faults, no software errors. Yet instruments that relied on photon timing, laser gyros, optical clocks, quantum sensors, all showed the same drift, an infinitesimal lag that pulsed with the 8.3 Hz resonance. It wasn't random. It was rhythmic, alive. Meanwhile, the condensate vortex inside the quantum chamber stopped rotating. Instead, it flattened into a delicate plane of light, like a membrane of silver mist. Cameras captured interference patterns that resembled standing waves. The crew watched in silence as the field began responding to their movements, faintly pulsing when anyone approached. It wasn't that the atoms were sensing presence. It was that the field seemed to include them. The realization struck slowly, almost painfully. Tiangong wasn't just interacting with space or Earth's field anymore. It was entangled with its observers. Conscious measurement, once a philosophical argument in quantum theory, was now physically visible. Shu felt both exhilaration and dread. Every action, every glance, altered the experiment. The boundary between observer and observed had dissolved. When Mission Control received the footage, silence filled the line. After a long pause, the voice of the ground director came through, measured but trembling. "You are witnessing a non-classical feedback loop. You must shut it down before orbital decay or magnetic instability amplifies the effect." But even as they prepared the purge sequence, the biological module began emitting faint luminescence. The stem cells glowed with the same spectral hue as the condensate field, identical wavelengths, identical pulse rates. The two systems, once separate, had merged through coherence. Tiangong was no longer a passive laboratory. It was behaving like a single unified organism, metal, light, and life woven together in one sustained resonance. Shu placed her hand on the module's transparent wall. The glow intensified for a moment, then subsided. The hum quieted. Everything went still. Then a single alert blinked on the console. Frequency shift detected. Outbound origin. Something beyond Tiangong had answered. In the hours that followed, the station moved through a silence so complete it felt sacred. Every instrument flickered back to normal. Every display aligned again with Earth time. Yet none of them felt sure they were still in the same frame of reality they'd started in. Shu watched the blue curve of Earth slide beneath the window, its horizon edged with gold. Nothing looked different, but she could sense it. A quiet vibration, almost like a heartbeat pulsing through the hull. The purge protocol was complete. The resonance experiment was officially terminated. Yet, when Li Wen checked the raw data from the magnetometers, the external signal remained faint, steady, and unmistakably artificial in structure. The frequency no longer aligned with 8.3 Hz. It had shifted slightly higher, as if adapting. The source was now beyond low Earth orbit, drifting outward. Whether it was a natural echo or something the experiment had created, no one could say. Back on Earth, the archived data from Tiangong was classified. But among those who saw it, a quiet consensus emerged that consciousness, matter, and the vacuum of space might share a deeper symmetry than physics ever imagined. Perhaps the universe doesn't just contain life, perhaps it resonates with it. As Shu prepared to return home, she recorded one final message. If coherence can reach beyond orbit, then everything we are is part of one unbroken field. Maybe the universe has been waiting for us to notice. Do you believe we finally did?